Hello and welcome. It is with great delight that I introduce our first author for the evening to the Bedworth Literary Festival. We are so deeply honored to have such a distinguished and universally acclaimed author come and share with us today. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Ambrose H. Tedelbaum.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Today, I will be reading a selection from my fourth short story collection, The Reginald's Cobblestone Daughter. This piece is titled An Encounter at Black Birch Creek. It was a cold day in November. I could see my breath. My wife stood in the doorway, wiping her flour-covered hands on her apron. She expected me back by dinner. I headed across the driveway, gravel crunching under my burnished leather boots. Dumplings tonight, I thought to myself as I stopped just before entering the woods. The sun, already beginning to disappear behind the mountains, shone through the bare, crooked branches ahead of me. I took one last deep breath, feeling the sharp bite of the cool air in my chest, and proceeded forward. I saw a 12-point buck across the path in front of me and silently cursed myself for not bringing my rifle. He stared at me. "You're one lucky son of a bitch," I said under my breath. As I bent over the stream bed to take a quick drink, there was a sudden rustling in the bush behind me. The trees, twisted and gray, limited my range of vision. I suddenly felt a chill. I wasn't cold. My goose-down jacket assured me of that, but I became keenly aware of the fact that I was not alone. I glanced at my watch and then at the setting sun. The dumplings would not be done, but I decided to head home. When I got back to the trail, I was hit by the pungent odor of decay. I quickened my pace. Each step I took, I thought I heard the twigs snapping and dead leaves crunching under some massive weight. I began to jog, looking from side to side, unable to make out any discernible shape. The ground was uneven, and it was getting darker. My mustachioed lip was wet with condensation from my heavy breath. Suddenly, crashing out from under the underbrush, came directly in front of me a full-grown male grizzly bear. I froze in my place. He stood on his hind legs. Spittle dripped from his massive maw. As he bellowed at me, I was hit by the rush of shitty-smelling wind. I could only assume it was his breath. We both stood there, facing each other. I tried slowly to back away, which provoked another roar and a charge toward me. He knew there was only one way for me to get home, and he was blocking it. My body was drenched in sweat, and I tried my hardest to remember what my survival books had advised. Play dead? Something that seemed so practical on the page now seemed like a resignation of life. Oh, what I wouldn't give to be back in my study, cracking open one of those leather-bound books. "Hey, bear," I said to him. "I need to get by here. I don't want any trouble." He stood even higher, waving his mighty paws in the air. His claws were caked with brown, crusty blood. "Look, bear, I just want to get home, okay? There's nothing I can give you." With that, the bear dropped on all fours and cocked his head to one side. "Well, there is something you could give me," the bear said with a devilish twinkle in his eye. It wasn't as if I hadn't thought about it before. I was in a happy relationship with my wife, but lately, something had just been lacking. I don't know if it was the long hours she'd been putting in at work or if it was just the seasonal depression, but she had not put out for a good 2 weeks now, and honestly, my balls were the size of grapefruits. As I glanced across the path, On that cold fall day, I couldn't help but to admit there was something attractive about him. I could see his hot, stinky breath shooting from his snout. "Well," he said with a grin, "are you going to keep me waiting?" It was seconds before I was down on my knees, my tongue running over his hairy pink meat dagger. I felt his paws gripping the back of my head, pushing his cum hose down my throat. I was sucking him so hard, I would not have been surprised if the grass underneath him was sucked right up his asshole. "Oh yeah," he said, "I'm fucking hornier than a two-dicked billy goat." I didn't fully understand the analogy, but I guess billy goats are pretty horny. And after sucking on his sloppy love muscle, so was I. I spit his throbbing baloney pony out of my mouth and wiped my lips. It was time to get down to business. We started out with your basic doggy style. It had been so long since I had gotten any stank on my hang down that I didn't last any more than a few pumps. Luckily for both of us, it didn't take more than one whiff of that sweaty, bare asshole to get my moisture missile inflated again. Soon, we were doing the beef and cheddar hot pocket, the soggy leaf blower, the steaming wrinkle, the tossed salad and scrambled eggs, the gaping trapper keeper, the monocle Lewinsky, the Gary Unmarried, Harriet Tubman and the reach-around railroad, the backwards-facing bigot, the egregious Philbin, the disappointing Christmas, even though there were only two of us, and finally, the missionary. By the time we were done, we were both exhausted and sopping with each other's sex sauce. As I washed my hands in the creek's frigid waters, I stared at my penis, which was withered and raw like a child's toe after a long bath. I had to think of how I would tell my wife I was no longer hungry for dumplings. I've had my fill. And then some. Thank you very much.